from everything of the life lessons of the barn and everything around here is just the yes or no, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I mean, I love that about our industry. And that's what I said. As long as they grew up having the values that came from our industry, I'm great with them going and doing whatever they want. Just didn't want them acting like most professional athletes.
Rodeo time.
Welcome to the Luke Branquinho Show. My next guest is somebody that has really been trying to bob and weave and elude me, and I know why. He's nervous to come on, which is understandable. I'm kind of a big deal. Was a has-been in the rodeo world, but I'd like to welcome 2022 Hall of Fame rodeo cowboy and 26 time, which I thought he should have won more, but he really let the world down. World champion cowboy Trevor Brazile. Trevor, thank you for finally coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I was just, until you spelt my name right, I wasn't coming on here.
Well, what did I spell with was it Travis? It was Travis.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. It was the nerves that have kept me away from here for sure. Understandable.
I knew you couldn't handle nerves much watching your career the last 25 years. It's amazing you've won what you did with the nerves, the way you
with my weak mental game.
Yeah, the weak mental game and everything that goes along with that. But man, it really is an honor to have you on. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually admired watching you rodeo, like being in the same arena with you because of your mental game. I honestly did. I learned a lot. I know, we've had conversations, but just how you went about your business and how you just handled everything from the ends of the arena, but also on the outside. So thank you. I'm giving you a little credit for the success I had in my career.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is starting to feel weird. You can go back to giving me, roasting me now anytime you feel like it.
Oh, I'm going to. I was going to say that beard. It looks. I had never really seen you with a beard, but it's got a little gray in it now.
It's amazing. Thank you.
You had some shoulder surgery. What, about 3 months ago?
January 5th. So not even 8 weeks yet. Yeah.
How's it? And you're waiting before you could shave so you don't cut yourself?
Yeah, I was. I didn't trust myself shaving right-handed, but now I can kind of get it up here, and I've just kind of it's grown part of the family now. So until I have to do something that makes me start sweating, I don't think I can sweat in a beard.
So wait a second. You said you trust yourself right-handed. Are you naturally left-handed?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Until I got my right hand back, which I can get it up here now.
Right.
My physical therapy is really, really getting me where I need to be.
I was going to say, when you said that, I'm like, wow, you're a natural left-handed, but did all your winning roping right-handed?
No.
That ain't it?
No, that's not it. But my dad is left-handed. I learned from a left-hander.
Oh, Jimmy, a left-hander?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. That's it. And I don't even want to go into left-handed because we talking sports. I have my oldest hitting left-handed because I think it's good to transition. But did Jimmy compete left-handed, roping left-handed too, or did he rope right-handed?
No, he only headed right-handed after he was done with everything, just roping. When he was team roping a little bit, he would try it right-handed.
I got you. Like old James Zant style left-handed southpaw.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he roped and tied left.
Huh. That's interesting.
Every sport's good to be left-handed at except rodeo.
Rodeo, exactly. Or catching. They say catching in baseball is not ideal. But Trevor, let's talk about your career because most people, everybody knows how successful you were. But with people I have on the show, we talk about what it takes, what people don't see, what you put in at a young age in the practice pen, the strengths that you gained from that. And nobody sees those. All they see is what you've won, the gold buckles, the money, the number next to your name. And I feel like I've spent a lot of my time in that same practice scenario.
Well, I think everybody wants, I'm no freak athlete. There's guys that look way more world champion-ish, if you will, than I do. But I think a lot of it has to do, I had to learn, with those weaknesses, come other strengths. It heightens your other senses, if you will. And so growing up, I wanted this worse than anything. I just wanted to be able to make a living with a rope, honestly. I didn't have any lofty goals like being a world champion. I really just wanted to be able to make a living doing what I love and not having to do it as a hobby. And I didn't have an arena the majority of my growing up. So I feel like that ended up being a strength also, because my practices were laser focused, because I only had, I was using somebody else's arena. We haul everything over there, and the practices had to mean something. And I look forward to them so much also.
Right.
And so having that at an early age to where, man, this is how you practice. I mean, you have to be focused, and you have to get all this out. It's not like going out there, your arena in the backyard, and just making dust. And sometimes you get something out of it, sometimes you don't. And I think having that type of practice for so long, even when I was able to have my own arena, I got more out of it than your average professional.
Across the created desert to where the mountains touch the sky.
This is Sanderson Ford
Country,
where Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford Country,
built on serving you.
Sanderson Ford.
Satisfaction in solidified usted.
We're Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford.
Well, and I think making every run count. I know for me in the steer wrestling, especially at a young age, I had so much going on with sports and everything else and I didn't limit my time in the arena steer wrestling, but I knew that I had to make each run count, because I didn't want to go bust my butt and feel like I was getting hurt for no reason. If I was taking a wreck, it was for a reason, and making each run count. And I think to a way, that's kind of what you're saying is you got to go to these arenas that weren't yours. So you had to make damn sure every run you made counted towards something, towards a goal for the future. And I had this conversation at a young age with somebody, but I also tell all the kids I go to the clinic that I do clinics for. I said, don't run this steer to get better for the rodeo tomorrow or the next weekend. You're running this steer to get ready for the future. And I'm talking about if you want to make a professional career out of this. You can't just sit here and say, I want to get better for the rodeo tomorrow or try to win next weekend. It is for the long shot, the future. The goal is the national finals, the world championship.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. But back to what I was talking to, everything that seemed like it was really hard for me when I was growing up ended up being the biggest blessings of my life, because one of the arenas that I got to go practice at was a horse trainer. And so I only had one horse, but if I would go and help him, ride 2-year-olds, get through all his stuff earlier, then, we could rope when we got done there. And that was with Jess Elrod. And man, at the time, it's like all the other kids aren't having to do this to practice. But then again, all the other kids didn't leave their high school career with those assets of being a better horseman because of it, So what seemed like definitely a hard time, as far as seeing what the other guys were doing at that time, I felt like I was getting further and further behind, but in the big scheme of things, it was a blessing in disguise for sure, because it got me further ahead, in horsemanship and doing the things. And that made up for, I wasn't the biggest guy out there. So that made up being able to utilize those horses and train horses that made all the rest of it work.
Well, and like you said, to that point, and I got to experience that steer wrestling, you would go somewhere and have to jump on somebody's horse and never maybe been on them before you'd seen them, but you have an idea. But you had those skills, the horsemanship skills from having to get on different horses at a young age to know how to get by them and how to be successful on them. And, I credit a lot of my time as a kid with my folks getting on colts and riding horses and cowboying and ranching on just I mean, really just ranch horses and learning how to get by them, to having success in the rodeo arena, going flying somewhere and saying, there ain't much of a horse here that a lot of guys have luck with, but I knew I can get by him.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
I towards the end of my career, I didn't like getting on other horses because I got so used to having my kind of horse,
Right.
and so if anything, having great horses and like being accustomed to one type of horse, that was almost took me to where if I didn't have one of mine there, I really didn't want to go towards the end of my career. But I also knew that was a big part of the recipe for success for me, was having a better horse.
Across the green desert to where the mountains touch the sky.
This is Sanderson Ford Country, where Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford Country,
Built on serving you.
Sanderson Ford,
Satisfaction en todo para usted.
where Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford.
Well, having those skills to be able to get on and get by with whatever. But now you've transitioned since retirement into your Relentless Remuda, and you guys have had a lot of success with that. And it's been fun watching on social. Miles, I know Miles Baker's been out there, and you guys have just put one amazing breeding program together. And how cool has that been for you? It's almost like you're going back to your roots of where you started.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. And for me, it was learning that, you've done it. You know how hard it is, just the anticipation of stepping away from something that was all you knew, and to think, what am I going to do now? How can I stop? But once I got home and realized that, I loved rodeo and I loved winning. I loved, seeing the people, the fans. That was all great. But at the core, I really didn't miss anything because I'm out here roping, riding horses, and the horses have been my passion from the start. And so the rope horse futurities and everything we do here at Relentless Remuda has just been so great for me, because it's stepped into really another career, not a retirement, but I'm able to be here doing it at home. And, I was 40 something years old at the time I retired. So, I mean, it was time. I was able to do what I wanted to do. I didn't have, when I walked away from it, I didn't have any regrets.
Right.
So that helped that transition for sure.
Well, I know for me it was harder because obviously training bulldogging horses, it's just not a thing, I guess you could say. But getting to do the television work kind of kept me involved in the sport, and still kind of had a piece of it there. A piece of me was still involved with it. But I honestly did not think that I would be back into the steer wrestling sport like I am now, since my oldest Cade is starting to steer wrestle. And I know you're experiencing that with Treston. He's back in the arena, high school rodeo and jackpotting. And you guys go jackpotting all the time. That's got to be just a fun, cool experience for you too.
It really is. But I mean, I love him being in the arena because I feel like I can add value, and we get to spend that much extra time together, which is one thing we're not getting any more of, is just time to spend with those kids. And I love it. But Style said something to me the other day. She's my middle girl. She's like, does it bother you that I didn't ever follow that path or anything? And I said, not at all, because I know how passionate I was about it and how it was still such a hard journey. And if it's somebody else's passion, parents can't want it for their kids. And
No.
I just want to see them, pursuing what they want to do, because everything is so competitive. If they're not passionate about it, they're wasting their time. And so that's what I tell all of them. Find something you're passionate about, and it'll get you through.
Well, and I think we see that. I know I've seen it a lot when we were out in California, but even out here, you see more parents that are more passionate about what their kids are doing sports wise than the kids are. And you could see it right off the bat. Like that kid's not here because he wants to be here. That kid's there because their parents do. And it's unfortunate, the parents are trying to live through their kids. And I was the same way. And Lindsay and I have always told the boys, there's no reason why you need to even know how to saddle a horse if that's not something you want to do. Find something you're passionate. Like Jameson, he loves technology, loves computers. Mm-hmm. He was probably one of the most naturally athletic as far as in the arena of all the boys, but it's just, I don't care if I do it or not. And in no way will we push him. The only thing I would probably push him to is a golf club, because even the 100th guy on tour makes pretty good money there.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think, and our kids had the luxury, whether they do it or not, of growing up in the Western industry. And that comes with its own perks, and being around good people, learning, we care for animals. Like, there's responsibilities that we have to have that, a lot of times that comes first. And from everything of the life lessons of the barn and everything around here is just the yes or no, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I mean, I love that about our industry. And that's what I said. As long as they grew up having the values that came from our industry, I'm great with them going and doing whatever they want. Just didn't want them acting like most professional athletes.
No joke. Speaking of athletes, watching, yours and Shada's social media, style is a baller. And it looks like fun. Yeah. And obviously she gets her athletic ability from her mother.
100%. 100%.
It was so impressive watching her drive to the basket. And I mean, like, just switching hands and then going up to the layup. That was cool for me to watch as a parent that has other athletes in other sports too.
Well, thank you. But see, that's as much fun as it is for me being able to add value for Treston's stuff when he's down here at the arena. It's such a relief for me, because I try to get her, the best training that I can get her. But also to go watch that, and know that I can just relax and go watch, that I wasn't coaching. I wasn't doing any of that. It has a whole nother level of relaxation. I mean, you can't tell it because I'm one of those crazy parents in the stands probably, but it is way more relaxing.
Across the green desert to where the mountains touch the sky.
This is Sanderson Ford Country, where Arizona's pride.
Sanderson Ford Country,
built on serving you. Sanderson Ford,
Satisfaction in todo para usted.
where Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford.
Here on the Luke Branquinho Show, we like to throw a little rodeo trivia around.
Why was barrel racing initially created, and what was the significance of it?
To hear the answer, you're going to have to stay tuned, keep watching the show, because I will answer it a little bit later.
Well, and I think for you, and I feel like I'm the same way, is we have made a lot of contacts from the Western world. Like doing that school in Illinois, I met a guy, Larry Pimpick. He was one spot from getting called up into the major leagues as a catcher. Well, Cade loves baseball. He loves catching. Now Larry's a hitting coach and a catching coach. And we could send videos back and forth to guys that were at that level and help our kids, because I don't know much about it, but if I can go get them that help, like if you can go get style basketball help or something like that, I think that's another great thing that the the rodeo industry has done for my family, is the connections we've made outside of it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. The network of people that may not necessarily compete, but that are rooted in this industry and love the way of life. Man, it's far reaching, and they're always a cold call is not really a cold call when you're calling somebody like that from this industry. They just get it. I don't know. You can't even explain it. Yeah.
And to have those, like I said, have those resources. And I'm similar to you when it comes to sitting behind the backstop with Cade, trying to not be the coach dad, but, little pointers that Larry tells him, I'm trying to relay it and making sure he does it right. And I'm like, send those videos to Larry and get feedback, because again, as parents, we want our kids to have the passion, but we also want them to have the tools to succeed.
I mean, the refs aren't going to yell at themselves. I mean, somebody's going to do it.
Yeah, the umpire's not going to look down and holler like, man, I blew that call.
That's right.
That's a great point. Switching gears, here's something that I was also impressed and wish I would have took more note from Trevor Brazile. And again, giving you credit. It doesn't hurt. It hurts to say that other people are going to hear it. But life during and after rodeo, what you did, and I tell this to all the students that I do at the clinics, said invest, be smart with your money. Because there's no telling how long rodeo will last. It might last you 20 years. It might last you 2. You have done an amazing job from an outsider looking in with how you handled your business, not in the arena, but on the outside.
Well, you talk about young kids. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing for them to realize is, a lot of them will say, well, I'm not interested in my studies. I want to be, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. And I was like, well, that's great. I love that you've, have a clear path, but rodeo is, roping or bulldogging. It's just one piece of the puzzle. The rodeo business as a whole is such a multifaceted thing with sponsors. Like say the horse business itself. Because there was a lot of time that my horse business supplemented my horse training and horse sales supplemented my rodeoing, until I got where I needed to get. So, there's just so many different things. You better not mind being in the public eye. You better be able to be able to public speak, at least to the certain levels for your sponsors, because it's all part of rodeo. Everybody wants to say, well, if you're good enough, you don't need that stuff. Yeah, you may be able to go through without it, but it's going to be at a severely lower level than you would be with it.
Well, and I can remember when we got picked up by the U.S. Army, what was that, 2004? And we had to go to media training. And that was my really first experience ever having to talk in front of a camera. And I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And I don't know if you remember that as well as I do, but from that day on, I'm like, okay, I could see why they want this. If they want somebody to represent them, they want to make sure they're well-spoken and know how to talk to people in front of a camera. And I feel like maybe that's where the rodeo industry has lacked a little bit, is giving the younger generation that education on how to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think that these other sports are doing it either. It may be a sports agent, or it may be somebody who's stepping in that to fill that gap. But I do feel like we've been a little bit behind as far as just the Cowboy Channel and things to get out there as far as be in front of people, and now everybody's seeing, the lack of media training and where people need help. And I think there's a big opportunity for that in this sport for sure. And I think guys, my advice would be take advantage of it, because I've never seen it not help anybody.
No, that's 100% right. It's never not helped. And I will say one thing about rodeo out there and social media and doing podcasts and the Cowboy Channel. Again, we talk about getting interviewed. You could see it's getting better, but to get the right people involved, the right sponsors, I think we do need to do better. And hopefully we're on that path, and hopefully these contestants are taking note of that. And obviously looking up to guys like you and saying, well, he was successful because he was successful in the arena, but he also spoke well, and sponsors thought, man, we want a guy like him to represent us.
And I think it's a great opportunity for kids right now, because they don't have to get face-to-face a lot because of social media. So it does have to, you definitely have to get out of your comfort zone, put yourself in uncomfortable situations, not be afraid to be embarrassed, because nobody ever started out good at any of that. So especially if you're not comfortable with it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it took me a while to get used to it, but now we're on the big screen, Trevor. We're Cowboy Channel. We get to do the pre-show, and I get to talk about steer wrestling and have people tell me how I was wrong and don't know what I'm talking about, which is awesome. I appreciate that feedback.
I wanted you to be known for something other than shaking your butt.
I know you did that once after you threw a steer down at the time events, didn't you?
I don't have enough to shake, Luke.
Well, it was a middle.
Number one, I don't throw it fast enough to shake anything. And then if I did, it would just be, I would fall way short of your booty shape.
You know what one of my claim to fame was, and I tell people this all the time, you probably don't remember, but I think you tied a tripping steer in like a 14 and I tied him in a 13 there at the time, Vince. Yeah,
mine was probably with 2 loops though.
It doesn't matter. Nobody counts the loops. And I'm going to have Kurt Robinson actually go back and
Go back and find that stat. That's good.
Yeah. That's my claim to fame. Did you ever beat Trevor Brazile? Yes, and that was it.
Perfect.
Well, let's talk about Kid Rock and Roll Rodeo. You are the coach of the Lowriders. We got a draft coming up. This is going to air after the draft, so we don't have to worry about anything coming out before too early. But draft coming up, and I know you and Dale Brisby,
my assistant coach,
have been doing your homework because the texts and stuff I get. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, I think this is going to be great for the sport.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. And everybody that's ever competed in anything like this, like I had rope like this and just the tie down roping before. There have been little experiments, if you will. And a long time ago, there were certain, it was back when amateurs, or if you were a professional, you couldn't go back to amateur rodeos. And then they had these teams similar to this. But what we're going to be able to do with the best athletes in the draft and to showcase them in such a great venue, and that's going to fit this format so good, going head to head, just watch the lights. When it turns green, the fastest man or woman wins. I mean, I think it's going to be great, not only for the rodeo industry, just to have another way to enjoy rodeo, but for people coming in, that may just been coming to a Kid Rock concert and be like, hey, that was cool. I could follow that. It's simple to follow. It's just like a race. Other than the rough stock, we're going to have to buck one and then the other, but I'm excited for it. I never thought I would be this excited for a draft and the excitement leading up to it, for sure.
Well, and there's been, obviously, I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions on, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, listen, this isn't a traditional rodeo. This is, don't think I'm going to go to a rodeo and watch Fort Worth or anything like that. This is not a traditional rodeo. So keep an open mind. That's kind of what I've tried to tell everybody. And obviously the rough stock's going to be a little different because you're not going to buck two animals at the same time. But the idea of the head-to-head is, in my mind, I think it's pretty cool. But the other thing that's cool is you have to call me commissioner.
That's not written down anywhere.
It's not yet.
Maybe on your business card.
We're putting it in the rules.
For everybody that says it's not a traditional rodeo, tell them don't panic. They can still go watch all the other rodeos. It's not changing anything. It's just going to be a very unique event and a super fun one to attend.
Well, and I think as well as anybody how the rodeo community gets with change.
Oh yeah,
they don't like change. I mean, we tried that with the ERA. That was fun, but that was a huge deal. They didn't like the change, the concept of, well, this isn't just everybody can go winner. No, it's not. This is the best of the best getting drafted by the best of the best, and we're going to make one hell of an event out of it. And I just wish there was a little more open-mindedness for people to, say, okay, let's look at Sid Steiner's even calling me. He must have a coaching question.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but I mean, you've probably received a lot more of the criticism than I have, because everybody that's talked to me just can't wait to watch it, just because it is so refreshing as a break from just your average rodeos. I mean, they can watch, 100 of those in 100 days at any point. You know what I'm saying? And so this is one of a kind. It is exciting. That's what makes it so hard to draft, because it is, we're talking about scenarios that people haven't competed in, and you would think they would be good at it, but just a little bit different, running side by side with no fence in the middle. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's going to be so enjoyable for the fans. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I know it's going to be good. Best stock, best athletes. The barrel racing is going to be interesting. You know, they're going to be coming from each corner. The third barrel's fairly close to each other, but to have Charmaine in and getting her feedback and how excited she is, because there was a lot of, not pushback, but a lot of questions from the barrel racers.
Well, yeah, and rightfully so, because it is different. You know, it is different, but I love how a lot of them just have that cowgirl up attitude and say, just show me what to do and we'll figure it out.
Well, and the thing, too, is seeing the declarations on contestants that declared. There was, I'm going to say, probably a third of the top 15 that didn't declare, and my numbers might be off per event. But it's going to be one of those things, in my opinion, those that don't declare, like, man, that was cool. Wish we would have put our name down. You know, and for the next one around, I think it's going to be a little bit different, because I know it's something that Sean Gleason, the PBR, they're pushing. Kid Rock's excited about it. But not only that, I think the new fan base the new fans that we're going to get brought into the sport is going to be big.
No, I haven't been this excited about a rodeo in a long time, just because, like you said, it's not traditional. Right. And the barrel racing's different, and the bulldogging's hard. I'm just going to say it. The bulldogging's hard because – and it's awkward for a lot of bulldoggers too, I think, because they're used to not being on a team, and so they just can haze for everybody and help everybody. And this is us against y'all, and everybody's gonna be friends when it's done, hopefully. But like, it's a team environment. And we've had attempts at it, but this is a true team. Like, everybody on that team, if you win, you get paid. If your bulldogger, you know, doesn't do something that costs you winning or barrel racing or anything, nobody gets paid, you know. So it's all or nothing, but that's when you know it's a true team event.
Well, and you're right. Even for me, being a bulldogger, looking at this and how the coaches are going to pick, it's tough, because you might have 4 really good haze horses and 6 really good bulldogging horses. Well, those 4 haze horses might haze for all 6 of those bulldogging horses. Well, not this time, because if you have one of those haze horses or even 2 of those haze horses on your team, they can't go to the other team and do any work for them. So it's going to be interesting, and I think that's going to be all part of the strategy. Who are some of your top picks in the steer wrestling?
Good try, Luke.
This isn't going to be all the draft's going to be.
No, well, I know, but I don't want anybody on my team to know they weren't my first pick either, Luke. But just talking in general terms, there's when you're looking at like taking horses away from guys, like if you draft, say there's 4 guys that ride one horse, and somebody drafts one of those guys that kind of controls the horse.
Exactly.
I'm not saying the other guys are obsolete, but they're not the same. They're not the same without that horse, you know, because that's all they've been riding everywhere.
Yep.
You know, and you can have a great bulldogging horse and a great guy, but if you don't have one of those great, I'm going to say haze horses are important as a hazer. I mean, you can put a great hazer on a pickup horse and you're not going to get the same job. But I mean, if I can guarantee I'm going to be trying to get a hazing horse that you know his name, you know, like they're going to be a household name because I'm a believer in that. That's huge when you're coming into especially a situation that not everybody knows and not everybody's comfortable with, and you want to have that fuzzy feeling over there that you got a good hazer on that side, and the hazing horse has been in every situation possible anyway.
I've always said that a great haze horse makes a good bulldogging horse look great, but a great bulldogging horse does not make an average haze horse look good at all. And in fact, it makes it look even worse.
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt.
But no, I think that strategy right there, the draft strategy, is huge. And I know there's a couple coaches that have reached out kind of on that same wavelength as you. So it'll be interesting when we get to this draft and how it's all going to play out. And again, just exciting times for the sport of rodeo.
No, 100%. And I've really been cramming because it's no secret I'm not a huge planner. And so you're liable to get a few calls when this is over too.
Well, why? It's going to be over. I can't help you once it's over.
Well, I'm just saying that no, this is over.
This call.
This is over.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
All right.
I still got bulldogging questions.
Well, let's talk about not the Kid Rock Rodeo, but rodeo in general. Shad Mayfield has almost $100,000 won after San Antonio. Now, this is a question for you. He has hip issues, labias, needs surgery. He told me, he said, if I got 100,000 won after Houston, I'm going to go get it fixed. Now I heard that may change. As a professional, as somebody that's been there, done that, what advice would you give him?
I mean, always, especially at 23, it's so hard to take in consideration how important your health is. And I don't know, because I'm not a doctor. I haven't sat in on any of those calls, but like, I don't know if he goes through this year, if it's going to make it a harder surgery, a harder recovery, or if he's going to have the same results, if it's
right.
So it's hard to answer that without knowing all those things. But I also know something that you and I both know: the intangible part of this whole thing is that gold buckle.
Yeah.
And it clouds a lot of judgment. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, what we'll do for that gold plate is crazy, and because it means so much to everybody that's competing and that ever has competed. So I can see it both ways, because he's had an amazing year. And by that, he's put himself in a tough situation because he's got to make that decision. And I can't blame him either way. I mean, right. I'm on the other side of it, so I can see how much, him being healthy would benefit him, not only through his career, but enjoying the time after it. But I also know that when you have 90-something thousand before Houston ever happens, it would be hard to tell me to go home too.
Oh, yeah, 100%, especially if, obviously it's bugging him, but it ain't bugging him enough to where he didn't win almost 100,000 up to this point. So, that is going to be a tough one for Shad. And the other thing is, if he does have surgery, he'd miss the Kid Rock and Rodeo. So it might be somebody you might not be able to draft. So I could see where you're playing this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that. I don't see it happening. I think I've heard a complete change in his tune as far as, he was talking in theory, before, but now that it's reality, having that much money won right now, I think has really changed his tune. And especially if he hasn't progressively got worse up to this point, even though it's not summertime. And we know that's a lot more of a grueling schedule, but still, I think it's going to be really hard for him to go ahead and do that surgery right now.
Well, and you look at the year he won the world championship in 20, he had a phenomenal winner. That's when stuff got shut down with COVID, and then had not a very good final. So you wonder if that's in the back of his mind. I need to get as big of a lead as I can before the NFR, so something like what happened in 20 doesn't happen again. You know what I mean?
Yes, and it completely shocked me that he hadn't had some good NFRs, because ever since I've started watching this guy, he was that talented and could do that many things. But this year, even though he had, a calf get up to crush a world record, or arena record for sure, he knows he can do it. And I just think he's at the point in his career to where I don't want to say he can't have a bad finals, but the trajectory shows different. It's getting better every year. And so I think the momentum's on his side for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his decision is. And obviously nothing but the best for Shad, because he is a superstar. I'm surely he's not doing the timed events this year, though. I didn't even look.
No, I think he took himself out of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty smart move right there.
Yeah.
Somebody we haven't talked about, I've said her name a couple times before we started started recording, was Shada. I know she was on Lindsay's, my wife's podcasts, the Companion Pass, and just hearing what our significant others go through while we're out on the road, you know, and what she's meant to you and your career and your success is, to me, it's not who they say the person standing behind you, but they have to be standing right next to us to help us get to where we're going.
Oh, no doubt. And the fact that she was standing there before I ever won anything, you know, means the most to me, because she saw it all. She was with me for every time we were up, every time we were down. You know, she made, you know, a ton of sacrifices, as all wives do, I know. But I mean, just to know, I mean, in 2013, she made the national finals. But I mean, like, who's to say how many times she would have if she wouldn't have been, you know, so intricate in helping me, you know, do all that. And now there's, you know, zero opportunity for it, because as devoted as she was to me, even more so these kids. So it's just, you can't, a mom and a wife, you can't ever say anything about their, you know, love or devotion, because it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I've always said this, to have the success I had, and I mean, I'm imagining similar for you, it's such a selfish lifestyle. You know, for me, it was about getting out on the road and winning what I could, and Lindsay was home taking care of the kids, taking care of things there, and, you know, when I was rodeoing, I was gone doing that, and you know, for them to be able to stick by, and I say them, Lindsay, stick by my side with the lifestyle the dreams I was chasing, I guess, was, I mean, that just credit to her and how strong-willed and what she believed in and everything that goes with that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was a little bit different because, you know, a lot of bulldoggers, I know y'all have to travel together because of all the other dynamics that we talked about earlier with horses and everything. And so it was really an easy choice for me to walk away from rodeo when I did, because I'd had the luxury of having my cake and eating it too, because my family was always with me. You know, I got to take them, because Shadow would homeschool the kids, you know, to a certain age. And I always said, well, when we put them in school, that was going to be it. And I thought I was going to be done way sooner, but I'll say to this day, I've never spent as much time with my kids as I did when we were rodeoing. You know, we'd all load up in the bus and just go, and we'd get done at one rodeo and they're locked in a bus with you. You know, they can't get away from you. They can't go to a friend's house, you know, and I'll cherish those days for sure. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm getting to take a little bit of advantage bringing the boys with me to some of these events that I'm doing TV. We went to Calgary last year. Bear got to do the wild pony racing, so he was pretty pumped about that. And
saw that. That's cool.
They gave me crap because I couldn't tell which one he was, but I challenge a lot of people to put a helmet and a vest on all their kids and same colored shirt and try to pick theirs out. But
let's challenge the dads, not the moms, because they'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Trevor, man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been fun for me. I know it's just kind of
it's been a blast.
So I could tell you're just so excited. But man, it was good catching up to you finally. Best of luck at the Kid Rock and Roll Rodeo as a coach. And when we get there, I will expect you to call me commissioner.
100%. Thanks for having me on, and love keeping up with these. Love seeing what you're doing outside of rodeo. I don't see any slowdown in you.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Rodeo trivia question.
Why was barrel racing initially created, and what was the significance of it? Barrel racing was created to allow women to compete in the sport of rodeo, being the only women's event in professional rodeo up to about 4 years ago when breakaway roping was introduced.
Hey, you want to see more in-depth details on the Luke Branquinho Show? Make sure you like and subscribe.